You're listening to the Brown Sign Project podcast.
Do you spend hours creating your rotas and then spend days constantly adjusting them? We have the solution. At Staff Savvy, we specialise in shift schedules and timesheet solutions for visitor attractions. Easily manage multiple complex teams of permanent, casual, freelance and volunteer staff across different locations and disciplines. With fast communication features, automatic compliance tools, training management and simple timesheet tools, Staff Savvy has been used and trusted by organisations such as V&A Dundee, the South Bank Centre and the Royal Albert Hall, with great cost-saving benefits. Visit us at staffsavvy.com/Brown Sign Project to learn more and schedule a demo of our magic rota button.
Welcome to the Brown Sign Project, the podcast that talks to some of the most enthusiastic and knowledgeable voices in the tourism and attractions industry. I'm Carly Strawn.
And I'm Carlton Gadjadar. In this episode, we bring an exciting conversation with Jennifer Kennedy, the founder of JK Consulting, which is a retail consultancy company that specialises in tourism and heritage.
As you're going to hear, Jennifer's enthusiasm and love for what she does is captivating. We'll discover how an epiphany in the joy of aesthetics guided her early career and how she's developed her skills since then by moving into tourism retail.
Jennifer's going to guide us through how she left a paycheck behind to develop her own successful consultancy business. Of course, we need to give a massive thanks to our season sponsors, Staff Savvy and Retail Integration. And now, let's have a chat with Jennifer.
So hi everyone, welcome to the Brown Sign Project. It's Carly and we have Carlton with us too. He's just running a little late. We're all guilty of that in the tourism industry, I think. So he's going to join us shortly. But I do have with me Jennifer Kennedy, who is the founder of JK Consulting, which is a retail consultancy that specialises in tourism and heritage. Jennifer, hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. I hear the weather is glorious actually in Ireland today.
Fabulous. At last, we waited all year and it's here and it's amazing. And it's a great reason to come and visit Ireland now that the sun is shining.
Yeah, I've spoken to, weirdly had a strange day of speaking to actually lots of Irish people on Zoom today. Every single one of them has told me how great the weather is.
Well, we spend most of our lives talking about the weather here, whether it's good or bad. So that wouldn't be unusual.
Excellent. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what your role is today, and then we're going to have a little chat about what you've done to get yourself here.
Okay, great. So yes, my name is Jennifer Kennedy and my business is JK Consulting, which I established in 2016. And what I do is I work across mainly visitor attractions on the island of Ireland, and support them in developing their retail experience, their retail offering. And I suppose over the years as well, it's evolved into its broader experience development across revenue streams. So I suppose that's what I do day to day in my current role.
Excellent. And I mean, you've worked with some really big names like Guinness Storehouse, Game of Thrones tour, which I'm sure some people listening will be very, very jealous of, and Kylemore Abbey, and so on. So it sounds like
I'm very lucky. I have got to work with really great brands and experiences to date. Prior to setting up my own business, I was actually worked with Guinness Storehouse for 12 years. So that I left Guinness Storehouse to set up my own business in 2016. So that would be where I spent a lot of my time and learnings in the tourism industry.
Brilliant. So to take us back to that.
Where did I start?
Where did you start? So what were you like at school? So did you have any like top subjects or anything you were interested in?
I had a few top subjects and I had a few really, really not top subjects. Mainly the things I loved when I was in school were English. I loved art with a passion. And they were probably the top two of anything to do in school. Everything else was, fine, but not passionate about them.
Big win for the anti-maths crowd, which is definitely...
definitely maths. No, I had to run screaming. But it's interesting as life went on and career changed. I'm actually a very commercial person nowadays. So it was quite interesting how it wasn't featured in my life at that stage, but as time progressed, it does actually play a major role in what I do now.
Excellent. And what did you do after school? Did you go
So
off
after
to college?
school, I was a bit lost, I think. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I started off I went to art and design college to study stage sets and creating, I was very creative, very arty. So I went and started that, and I did that for about a year. And then I kind of didn't know what to do after that start. I was kind of at that stage thinking, what do I do next? And then I had the opportunity to take a year break before I went on to proceed to the next stage of that. And at that time, I took a part-time job in Next in Dublin, and as just like a weekend summary job type of thing. And I had no idea of anything to do with retail really at this point. This was a bit of an enigma to me, walking into this environment. And it was coming up to Christmas time, because I took my year from September to September, so maybe October time, November, when I went in and started working Next, thinking let's see what happens for the break for a year and do something different. And I was in the kids department, and I was fascinated by all these beautiful products, the color ranges. And one day, one of the managers came over to me, and she produced this amazing book with all these products and color palettes. And I was just going, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it was like, so what's going to happen next? She was trying to explain to me is, this is the product range that's going to come through now in the next 6 weeks into this store. And we're going to follow this visual story of how to put together these products in this space for people to come in and buy. And I just was like, wow, that's amazing. And I just had no idea that this happened or this was even a thing. So I just completely was like, I like literally, I think the day the book was put in front of my nose, I was in love. I was like, I love this. And then when the product started coming in, I was like, can I help? Can I do this? Like, I have, I had a good eye. I was arty and creative anyway. But then the icing on the cake was watching people buy and see the conversion into money coming into a till. And then it was even, oh my God, this is like a full circle of like things being created, brought to life, sold, and it's a business. So for me, that was just, I was like groundbreaking. I was like, I'm in love. I love this. And I got really giddy with it and I spent a few years with Next. I never went back to college. That was it. I was smitten. And I did go on the management course for Next, and I went from one department to another. And I kind of created a strategy for myself in my 20s where I kind of had found my thing that I never thought in a million years. I didn't even know what it was properly. And I was going to give myself a couple of years in a couple of big companies and see what could I learn, go in like a sponge, move through the ranks. I was definitely motivated by learning and understanding all aspects of this retail side of a business, or any sort of retail business. And I was motivated by money. So I wanted to kind of make more money and get as good as I could, as quick as I could, and hop around. So that's really what I did. Yeah. For most of my 20s. I gave myself 2 years in, out, and I worked with Next, Habitat, Pringles Scotland, Brown Thomas. So I really went for it, like gusto. And there probably wasn't a role in any of them that I didn't throw myself into or take on board, or if ever there's an opportunity, I was like, I'll do it. And if there was something else that was new, this is a new thing we're going to start, I'll do it. So I was just like this crazy person, constantly absorbing like a sponge. And then I was in Brown Thomas for a little while. That was probably my shortest stint in retail. And I was ready to move into something else. And I went and interviewed for a job in the Guinness Storehouse. And at the time, I remember thinking, this is different for me. Like, it's very unusual. But they were looking for someone to be a store manager in their retail offering at that time in the Guinness Storehouse. And that was in 2004. And I remember actually on the day of the interview, my nana was alive at the time, and she was kind of going, now, go on, get yourself up and get yourself ready. And Guinness is a great brand, that'd be wonderful. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, it's so different. It's totally all left field from anything I've been doing, which has been working in high street retail and premium brand retail. And I remember we're going in having this interview with this lovely lady. And I remember the buzz of the interview, like, the way she interviewed me, I'd never been interviewed like it before, and it was like later on I found out, because I spent many years there, was competency based interview, where basically you're asked all the way through the interview to give examples of whatever, everything and anything. And I was just in seventh heaven because I had so much to tell her. So it was like, every time she said, "Can you give me an example of?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Oh, this and all that." And I just came out going, "Oh, high as a kite." And I remember ringing my nana going, "Oh, amazing. I just absolutely loved this." And then literally the same evening, actually, I got a phone call to say that I had gotten the job. And I went in and I just spent 12 years there then and had the most amazing experience. And I really fell in love with tourism, which prior to that, I had never really been involved in any shape or form.
Cool. So before you move on to what you do today, because I think this is a pretty, maybe not a common route, but I think a route that people forget about is that when you get into tourism is that it has lots of other sort of industries within it. So, most tourist attractions would have an element of retail or an element of catering so if you've worked in a Starbucks or a McDonald's, you can transfer those skills into a role in a cafe or a restaurant within an attraction. And so like you did, taking your high street experience. And I think sometimes there's really, the high street is very different to tourism retail.
Very
great transferable skills. And I did the same, actually. I worked for Monsoon Accessorize before I moved into my first job and got a job in a shop because of that experience. And I think what a great set of transferable skills to have.
Well, that's the thing. And I suppose the common denominator is people, because throughout my experience anyway, in the industries that I've been in, it's always people are always central to it in every make, shape or form, whether you're managing a team, working alongside a team, collaborating with a team. So those skills, coming from different industries, if you have them in your world, are so powerful to move into tourism, because I don't know if you can be in tourism if you're not interested in people. I think it's fundamentally required, I would say. But it's also probably one of the funnest industries to be in my experience anyway. And I've always found it, I've always found the people within tourism to be really full of energy and enthusiasm and kind of can-do attitudes, which I think is actually a really lovely place to be and to work and be surrounded by those types of people who are that way inclined naturally.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. And we talk about this quite a lot of you can teach skill, but you can't teach the love of people. You can't teach something that is very personality based. And I think, you can get better at it, but if you fundamentally don't like people, you're going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
In most tourism roles, right?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it just goes. That's the nature of the beast. Everything about it is experience, making people happy, being a part of their experience while they're with you. So, I think you need to naturally like being around a lot of people.
So you obviously finished at Guinness Storehouse, or you were there for a very long time, and then had a very big change because you moved into consulting and having your own business. And that is a really big kind of strikeout on your own. Do you want to just explain to us like a little bit about what that was like, or what drove you to that decision?
Well, I suppose first thing probably to say is that I was probably always entrepreneurial minded and spirited. And even with any of the roles I had or organizations I worked within, I was always pushing to kind of do something different or trying new things. So it was naturally something I was always inclined towards. I think I probably always had in my head, someday I'd love to run my own business, but I had absolutely no clue whatsoever what that would look like. And actually, even, I had 12 great years in Guinness Storehouse where I really got to play a pivotal role in the development of the retail, specifically offer of the Guinness Storehouse. And part of that journey was taking down walls, raising the roof, bringing in chandeliers, looking at product development. It was, there's so many crazy things. And I was part of the leadership team of a huge brand and experience. I was just learning so much all of the time. And I suppose at that time came to a point where I thought, yeah, I've done this. I've done so many things. I've learned so much. And I saw a little bit of a niche and a little bit of a gap in the market in terms of the overall experience destination that I would have frequented or known about on the island of Ireland. Where there was good footfall numbers, there was, good businesses, good brands. But at the time, I felt that the retail offering for a lot of those brands and experiences didn't match up to the brand or the actual offering as a brand experience that was being presented. And I suppose I had learned over a long time working with a big brand in that field how I could help that and develop that further. And I kind of just wanted to do what I'd done with Storehouse in lots of other destinations and locations. So it was very niche and I was absolutely terrified. And I totally jumped off a cliff without a parachute and said, let's hope for the best here. And I planned it for a little period of time. I probably spent 6 to 9 months mulling it over, trying to figure out what this is going to look like. I made sure I had no debt. I had some savings in the bank. I was giving myself that kind of window of 6 months to 12 months, just see what happens. Worst case scenario, are you going to be okay in 12 months if you never have a client and don't make any money? Will you be able to pay your bills and survive? And once I had that bedded down, I was like, I'm doing this, and I did it. And thankfully, it worked out well. And within the first, I remember getting my last paycheck going, oh my God, I might not get another paycheck. Like, I don't know when I'm going to get paid again. So I remember just thinking, oh my God, this is such a big thing, but also, feck it, let's just do it and see what happens. And sure enough, so 4 weeks out, which is a month, so I left, I had my first client within a week or two, and I had my first kind of money coming in for my first invoice after about 4 weeks. So I actually never had a month where I didn't have something, whatever it was. So
that is so cool.
It really kind of built from there over 6-7 years now. And it really just built from there. And I suppose, luckily, all of my clients, actually, I think every one of them I've worked with over the years, everyone has come to me through referral, which is brilliant, because I wouldn't be great at marketing myself, if I'm honest. It's not my area. It's not something I'm that great at. So I've been lucky that thankfully I've worked with and I work with amazing clients who have graciously also told other people about me along the way.
Yeah, I think that worries a lot of people, is that, when you think about becoming self-employed, you do have that thing of, you suddenly have to be your own finance person, your own HR person, your own marketer. You've got to build your own website. And I think, if you can bring in those skills along the way to help you, brilliant. But I think actually for most people, you learn as you go, and sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong, and sometimes you don't need it as much as you maybe think you do. I think that's it.
I mean, the one thing I thought I did, and I kind of just took the chance at the time, was I had a bookkeeper from the minute I started. So for me, that was the bit I didn't have the bandwidth or thought process to be worried about in terms of paying your tax and your VAT and all of that side of setting up a business your own. And I was like, I don't have time right now to figure out how to do that stuff. So I'm not going to waste it there. I'm going to just hire somebody. And it wasn't like it was a big output. It was maybe somebody you need 4 to 6 hours a month, maybe, just to keep on top of all of that side of a new business. So that because other people I've kind of helped over the years who have also said, so when they went out and said, the first thing I say to everyone is, are you naturally good or inclined towards, keeping up to date with your VAT, your taxes, your under? It's like, no. I said, okay, so before you do anything, get yourself a bookkeeper quick. Take that out of your way and don't even think about it, because if you spend nothing but just that bit of money on having somebody watching that stuff for you, pretty much everything else you can figure out along the way, or you can find someone who will help you or tell you what to do when you're stuck. But yeah, I slept easier from day one knowing someone else was dealing with that stuff.
Absolutely. I think what you're kind of saying is like you just need to go out and just do it. Just the
Yeah,
confidence of
yeah,
just like, you know what? I can do this. I've got my
yeah,
money saved. You know, if anything goes wrong, it's all right. I've got this
yeah,
kind of safety blanket
yeah.
on there. But it's just really nice for the listeners to understand that. It's like if you've got this goal or vision, just
Yeah.
do it. You
Yeah.
know, it's
And I
okay.
think as well, I think sometimes people overthink things to the point where you can talk yourself out of anything if you try hard enough. I always work back from worst case scenario pretty much with everything. And then my worst case scenario was this doesn't work. I gave it a shot and I have to go and get a job. So, we'll survive. I'm not going to sink any ships. So let's see where it takes you.
Introducing Meridian Experience from Retail Integration, the leading multi-channel ticketing, retail and membership system for visitor attractions. Working with visitor attractions for over 25 years, Retail Integration have developed the ultimate solution that enables some of Ireland's leading visitor attractions manage every aspect of their business, from ticketing and admissions to merchandising, food and loyalty programs in one single system. Customer experience is at the heart of what we do. Contact us today and let Retail Integration help you to exceed visitor expectations. We listen, we develop, we deliver.
I want to ask you a question regarding what is your favorite aspect of your job? What do you love doing, and what gets you up in the morning?
What gets me up in the morning is the variety of what I do. I am so lucky that I never have a boring day. Every day is different, and I'm constantly working on other people's products, whether that's the physical space and, working on a business that, needs to do a full refurbishment or needs a designer coming in to tear it apart and start all over again, or whether it's product development of bespoke products that people are going to buy and take away with them as part of your experience, or if it's the flow and movement of people through your space and what the experience feels like for the consumer. So there's so many things going on all the time on any given day with me that's what it's excitement. I'm always excited. I'm always giddy. And every brand I work with is at a different stage. It's looking at something slightly different. So there's no one size fits all, which I adore. So you have to always think. You've constantly got to keep your head thinking and challenging. Well, you're a different brand. So what do we do with you that's special that no one else can do? And I think that's really interesting that everybody has to tailor to what why I always say to clients of mine, why do people come to you? Why are they going to book a ticket to come here? And then follow that thread through every element of your experience and what that delivers to the consumer, because that's where the magic happens, is when you look at it through the eyes of the consumer and go, well, I'm a tourist, I'm on the island of Ireland, I'm going to this county. So why do they want to pick you over all the other amazing things they could do here? So, that's what gets me out of bed every day.
You said something really interesting there, actually, which I just want to tie back to what you said about, your first job at Next and someone presenting you with this book of, a brand Bible, if you like, for Next is, I think a lot of people, and all the best stuff in attractions, right? It's sort of invisible, that nobody should realize that somewhere there is this brand Bible. You should know when you walk into a Next that all of the Nexts have this standardization. And I really like that idea that, like you said, that why do people come to Next or to wherever it might be, or to the Guinness Storehouse, or what, is that they don't come for generic stuff. They don't come for the things that everyone else can sell them. They come for this hidden brand which you might not even recognize.
I call it like the magic dust. It's like, and it's emotion. Everything about attractions from my perspective and experience is grounded in emotion. How do you make people feel? And that's where the magic kind of happens, I think. And it's all consuming from every aspect. And it's relentless. I love that it's relentless. I love that you're never done. It's never over. You've never perfected it. You're never going to be happy with, we now have 1 million visitors. Right. So now, how do we get 1.1 million? Great. Well, we have that now. So how do we get 1.4? Like, I love that it's never over. You're never done. And you can always, the drive and stamina and that relentlessness to push all the time, I thrive on. I love that. I find that exhilarating.
When we talk to people, sort of, the industries are quite similar, but there's some really distinctive differences about, event kind of management, because that is some, that kind of falls under tourism industry, events and sports and so on. And, we talk about leisure time, but I always say to people, it's different. When you work in an event, you have this big build up, you have the event, and then you're sort of done, and you can have a breather, and you can have a review, and you can do it different next time. Every day is like that in an attraction.
Yeah.
Because you don't get the chance sometimes to have a breather and decide what to do next, because you're doing it.
And I think that's what's brilliant about it. I think it's such an energizing industry to be in, because you won't succeed if you don't behave in that way in your attraction. It has to be that way for you to stay at the top of your game or to compete with the next product that's coming to market. And I think that's exactly as it should be. It should be that way. It should be that very dynamic, high energy, fast paced, high movement, fun, so much fun environment, and so many happy people. I remember when I left retail to go into tourism, I could not get over how happy people were when they came in to do a destination experience, because in high street retail, that was not what I experienced on a day-to-day basis. So that was a revelation. It's like everyone's so happy. And even if they have a problem, it's not a big problem. It's like a baby problem that you can totally fix, like so easy. And I've always loved that about tourism, that, people are notoriously can be tricky, or, they have returns, or they've damaged goods, or there's a problem with this, or there's a problem with that. Loads of industries. Can you imagine, working in a bank, how many people come in with lots of great news, and, so many different things. But in tourism, I think you have to work hard to make people unhappy coming into your destination. So
I agree with you.
Why would you even do that?
Absolutely agree with you. I think it's all about emotions, as you mentioned. People don't forget how you make them feel, and that is how you get that return visitor. Because if you make them feel amazing, they're going to come back with their friends and family, and they're going to do the same thing. So it's really, really important.
But it's that word of mouth referral piece, because again, some attractions have loads of money and can spend a fortune on marketing and all that stuff. But just lots of attractions don't have huge budgets for marketing and stuff like that. So the word of mouth piece, when people walk away, and we all walk away and want to tell people about what we've done, where we've been, recommendations where you need to go, and it's such a powerful and cost-effective tool to make people want to come back to a destination or an attraction, because there isn't normally a repeat visitor for the same person, but there's a referral piece there that drives other people to you because someone else has had an amazing experience with you.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I could talk for hours on this topic.
That's all right.
All right, we're gonna have to stop. I'm so sorry, because we've got some time. It's a time limit now.
Luckily we do have a podcast in specifically to talk about this stuff, so
True.
we've got that. But yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to go on to our next question, and it's kind of like our crystal ball question, and I just want to find out, in your opinion, how do you think your job is going to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years, especially kind of technology wise and the advancements that's what's happening? What do you think that's going to look like?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the crystal ball in me instinctively is saying, as far as my perspective on attractions is, it's always about the live experience in the moment on the day. And I don't see that element of it changing so much, but I do see the expectation of what that delivers having to go up. And that might be a more blended approach using digital, or, there's lots more virtual reality elements coming into attractions and things like that. So I think it's going to probably become a bit more blended with digital over the next few years. I think that's just a given. It's inevitable, but it needs to be really good. And I think they'll all start to compete with each other on a more blended offering as opposed to just a traditional tour. The tour now has to have other enhancements added into the experience to make it really compelling and compete with each other. But I do think it will always still be about the experience, the emotion in the moment, on the day, and the reason you chose to go to that brand in the first place. So that piece is the bit that I think will be constantly need to be refined as time goes on. Expectations. Why do people want to come to you? And things are changing. People want to go to the brands now for different reasons. Sustainability, green credentials, there's all of these other things that have come into the mix in recent years that will start to tailor the decision process more and more as to why people want to visit you. It's not going to be just one thing anymore. I think there's multiple facets to an experience nowadays that will need to continue to be evolved.
And do you think your role has changed even since kind of 2016 to now? Is there new technology in the market that either sort of helps you do your job better or helps your clients do their jobs better?
I think people are more, I think more investment has gone on in the last few years in terms of systems into attractions to help them use tools to perform better. I see that a lot, and I think that's a good thing. And I think it's necessary because there was a lot of manual things happening in attractions that were very time consuming, very labor intensive. So again, the power of technology to utilize tools to free up the humans to do the human stuff and the engagement and the looking after your guests and your visitors and the hospitality side of tourism, in my opinion, is always down to the people in the business and the brand ambassadors and the people who love it and breathe it. So technology, I think, yeah, it's here and it does great stuff and it has made great advancements. But even with all my clients, it's a tool. I see it as a tool as opposed to, fundamentally changing how they behave and operate.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Just to kind of take us on a sort of weird slight turn. You said earlier, because we've just talked about so much stuff, so I'm really going back to things that we talked about really early on because we've gone down so many rabbit holes. It's been great. You talked about like competency-based interviews, and I think that's really you're the first person I've actually heard call it out and say, like, this is a specific way I was interviewed and that was really interesting and it actually really worked for you. Do you have any sort of tips for people getting into the industry who maybe are going to their first jobs, and sort of what would your top 3 tips be for getting through those kind of basic interview questions, and what would you take with you?
I suppose it depends on the experience you have going into the interview. So if you're really, this is your first job, so you're going to struggle in a competency-based interview if this is your first job, right? So that's just the way it is. However, that doesn't mean you might not be an amazing fit for this industry. So I would say your attitude and your openness to learn is probably key to everything you'll ever do in a tourism industry. So approach an interview with energy, with your can-do attitude, with examples of maybe other things you've done in your life that might not be job specific, but maybe organizations or you've done things in university or been part of groups and stuff like that show how you work with people, how you communicate, how you engage, make eye contact, like show the personality that you have that could be an amazing asset in tourism, because you can learn skills. You can be taught all the other things that you may need to know. But if you don't have the right attitude from the get-go, and if you're not really open to learning, I think you'll struggle in tourism, because you need to be open, because every day is different in an attraction. And you could be doing 4 or 5 different roles over the period of a 12-month cycle where you're hopping around different departments in an attraction. So, that's the openness you need to walk in the door with, going, I'm very open to working in the bar, to working in retail, to giving tours, whatever, because that's the nature of the beast. You need to be able to be very flexible and versatile, and that just doesn't faze you. And that's not for everybody. So it's very important you know that about yourself as well, because sometimes that's a huge barrier. Like if you're coming into tourism thinking I'm going into tourism and I'm going to only be a tour guide, that's highly unlikely. And if that frightens you that you might do other stuff, then I would say, be careful, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah, I think we're all testament to rolling up your sleeves and doing whatever the job is that needs doing. Definitely.
Yeah.
Also, big smiles.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Make sure you're smiling when you walk in and meet the person for the first time. You are showing your lovely pearly white teeth.
Yeah.
To the people, because it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
You know, because the thing is, that is a first impression for the interviewer, but also that will be also your first impression with the visitor as well.
100%. Absolutely. And I think it is so important for the interviewee, for sure, trying to get into the industry. But then even when you're in the industry and you change in now different roles, and from a leadership perspective, even running teams and managing teams, the leader needs to show that. That leader needs to be that embodiment of welcome, warm energy, and it radiates. And it should radiate, because that's how you build your teams and your people. And I think also it helps whoever's interviewing these new recruits coming along as well. It helps shape what they're looking for in candidates coming in the door, because you know if you have someone who comes in and can't make eye contact with you and is uncomfortable and isn't able to articulate and talk comfortably with you in an interview, that they're probably going to struggle in this environment. It's not an easy environment. That's not something that's relatively comfortable for you. You don't have to be all singing, all dancing at that point, but you definitely need to have good communication skills.
Absolutely, totally agree. So talking about communication skills, I have another question for you. And the question is, what is the biggest challenge you are facing in your current job?
I'm too busy.
Too busy?
Too many things going on.
We understand
that's a lovely position to be in, I have to say.
No, I'm only really joking. My challenge is making sure I have enough time to do what I need to do with all the different clients I work with. So that is probably my biggest challenge, making sure I don't overextend myself, and I'm managing it. I do manage it, but I have to work at managing it. So I would say that's probably my biggest challenge.
I think that is such a common thing. Either if you're self-employed because you sort of have to spread yourself thin enough to do the job, but there's only one of you, or people in like their first jobs, especially. I think when we talked earlier about saying yes to stuff and wanting to get involved, but also being very conscious of you're no use to anybody if you are absolutely exhausted.
I
think that's really, really useful. Really useful.
It's all about the spinning plates as well.
Yeah, but I think actually COVID was a good example of forcing people who are in their own business, whether to have to really slow down, whether they liked it or not. And I think it was a really good, a very interesting learning. For me, I can give you an example from my own experience. The last time I took a 2-week holiday was in 2015. Genuinely, that's the last time I took 2 weeks off together. And I started my business in 2016, thinking, I'm going to organize myself really well. I'm going to have loads of holidays, and I'm only going to work a few days. So really, when COVID kicked in, I was kind of sitting in the garden one day and with my 2 kids going, no, we actually haven't had a 2-week holiday for years. So this year I'm going, actually on Saturday, I'm off for my first 2-week holiday since 2015. And I made a conscious decision after coming back to life after COVID that, it's great to be busy. It's great to have a business that's doing well and you're happy and you're working with great people and great clients, but you do have to look after yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you. So you do have to kind of at some point, just whatever that is to you, whether that's, for me, it's I have allocated myself. I'm taking 2 weeks off every year, no matter what, together and for the rest of my life. And that's it. So whatever it looks like different things to different people. It might be that you only want to work 3 days a week or whatever. So for me, that was a good learning. And actually, I didn't even notice that I hadn't done it. It was only when COVID happened I noticed.
That I think is a learning for everybody, is thinking, oh yeah, like I'm not going to work that much. And then you suddenly get into it. And like you say, 7 years have passed and you suddenly look up and think, hang on, maybe I have worked a bit. You know?
Yeah, more than I thought. Yeah, more than I initially planned on, for sure.
I think, but also it's when you enjoy your job and you enjoy the
Yeah.
environment, the time just absolutely flies.
It disappears. It really does. I actually can't believe it's even 7 years, because I love it and I absolutely live and breathe it every day. And it just doesn't feel like work. It's so much fun. And you get to, the people in all the different places I work with, I love going in. I love the change up. I love meeting the new, whoever it is. And it's so fun. Tourism is a really fun industry to be in.
I agree.
Yeah, which leads me to you might have just answered it, but our closing question for you today, Jonathan, then we'll let you go off and pack for your holiday, because that's
absolutely
what's on your mind.
There's literally piles of clothes on the floor right where I'm sitting right now, all around me. Very organized little bunches of stuff.
Excellent. And our closing question would be, why would you, if you're talking to people who maybe haven't got into sector or early in their careers, why tourism? Like, why should they come to us?
I think you should come to tourism for a few reasons. One, you'll never be bored. Two, you are surrounded by great people with great attitudes, and it can't but bring you on, and it gives you a great opportunity to learn from like-minded people. In my experience, people are pretty like-minded in this industry, and I love that. It's very positive. There's a lot of positive intent and encouragement and support across this industry, which isn't always the case in other industries. And I think tourism is quite unique in that everybody genuinely wants everyone else to do well and to succeed. And that's a really nice environment to be in and to want to be in. And the fun element of it, it's great. And as a young person coming into an industry, you get to, I think as well, because a lot of the attractions have lots of multilingual requirements, you get to mix with all sorts of nationalities and cultural groups. And it's like a melting pot of all these different types of people and personalities. And it's just fascinating that you get to do that and learn and kind of work alongside all sorts of different people from all walks of life. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Tourism is a great place to work. Jennifer, thank you for bringing your energy to the podcast. It's been absolutely fantastic to kind of learn everything that you've done and sharing all your top tips. But before you leave us, we want to find out where we can find you digitally. So where can we find you if people want to get in contact with you?
Well, you can find me at a website, which is jkconsulting.ie. You can find me on LinkedIn, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, I'm a bit of an enigma in the digital world outside of those two things. And you might know somebody who knows me who'll tell you to give me a phone call.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that.
The best kind of marketing that you'll find.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's free.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you. It was great. My first podcast, so this has been a great experience for me as well. Made me feel very uncomfortable for the last few weeks. I know this is coming, and now I'm like, okay, tick the box. I've been pushed out of my comfort zone today. Off we go on to the next thing tomorrow.
Well, you did a great job. Thank you so much for the chat today, and wish you all the best in your career and everything that you're doing.
Take care. Lovely to meet you both.
Thanks as always for listening to the Brown Sign Project, and a really massive thank you to our series sponsors, Staff Savvy and Retail Integration.
The Brown Sign Project was edited by Paul Tyler, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Brown Sign Pod, and you can also find us on LinkedIn.